Welcome back to the Sharing English podcast, where we explore stories from the English-speaking world, spoken slowly and clearly for curious English learners like you. Let's get started. Hey everyone, it's your host Freya. If you've ever searched for Australia online, you've probably seen some pretty wild headlines. Giant spiders, deadly snakes. Everything in Australia is trying to kill you. The internet loves to joke that Australia is the most dangerous place on Earth. But is that really true? And why does Australia seem to have so many animals that don't exist anywhere else? Today we're traveling to the Southern Hemisphere to discover the fascinating story behind Australia's unique wildlife. Along the way, we'll learn some useful English vocabulary, bust a few myths, and discover why Australia's animals tell an incredible story about evolution, geography, and culture. To understand Australia's animals, we first have to understand Australia's geography. Australia is both a country and a continent. Millions of years ago, it separated from the other continents and remained isolated for an incredibly long time. Imagine two families living on opposite sides of the world, never meeting each other for millions of years. Over time, each family would develop its own traditions, languages, and customs. Something similar happened with Australia's wildlife. Because Australia was isolated, its animals evolved differently from those found in Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. Today's vocabulary will help us understand this story a little bit better. A species is a particular type of living thing. To evolve means to gradually change over a long time. A habitat is the natural environment where an animal or plant lives. When scientists describe Australia as isolated, they simply mean it developed separately from much of the rest of the world. That isolation is the reason Australia is home to so many animals found almost nowhere else. One of Australia's greatest claims to fame is its marsupials. A marsupial is a mammal whose babies are born very early and continue developing inside a pouch or pocket. Unlike many mammals, marsupial babies are tiny when they're born. After birth, they crawl into their mother's pouch where they continue growing safely. Australia is home to dozens of marsupial species, making them one of the country's defining characteristics. Interestingly, marsupials aren't found only in Australia. The Americas have marsupials too, including the opossum, but nowhere else has the incredible diversity found in Australia. Let's meet a few of Australia's most recognizable residents. Perhaps no animal is more closely associated with Australia than the kangaroo. Kangaroos are powerful jumpers that use their enormous back legs and strong tails to travel across open landscapes. A group of kangaroos is called a mob, another useful Australian English word. You'll also find kangaroos on Australia's coat of arms, where they appear alongside another famous animal, the emu. People often point out that neither animal easily moves backward, making them a symbol of a country always moving forward. Next up, we've got the cute, cuddly koalas. Despite what many people think, koalas are not bears. They're marsupials. Koalas spend up to 20 hours a day sleeping because their diet of eucalyptus leaves provides very little energy. Although they may look relaxed and sleepy and cuddly, koalas face real challenges today from habitat loss, disease, and increasingly severe bushfires. Another Australian animal may already be familiar to many English speakers and learners, even if you don't realize it or know the name. The kookaburra is a large kingfisher famous for its call, which sounds remarkably like loud human laughter. If you've watched movies set in jungles, you've probably heard a kookaburra, even if the story wasn't taking place in Australia. For decades, filmmakers have used its distinctive call as a general jungle sound, even though kookaburras are native to Australia. Many English-speaking children also know the kookaburra because of a traditional song learned in schools and summer camps. Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. A gum tree is another name for a eucalyptus tree, one of Australia's most common trees. For many children growing up in English-speaking countries or growing up going to English language summer camps, this cheerful song becomes their very first introduction to Australian wildlife. Next up, we've got the platypus. If someone described a platypus without showing you a picture, you might think they were making it up. It has the bill of a duck, the tail of a beaver, webbed feet. It lays eggs, and the males even have venomous spurs on their back legs. When European scientists first received a platypus specimen in the late 1700s, some genuinely believed it was a joke. They thought someone had stitched together parts from several different animals. As strange as it seems, the platypus is completely real. Australia is also home to the echidna, another egg-laying mammal covered with sharp spines. Only 5 species of egg-laying mammals, called monotremes, are alive today, and Australia is home to most of them. Then there are wombats. These sturdy marsupials spend much of their lives digging underground burrows. They're also famous for one unusual fact that's surprisingly true. Their droppings, poop, are cube-shaped. Scientists believe the unusual shape helps keep them from rolling away, allowing wombats to mark their territory more effectively. So, is everything trying to kill you? Not really. Australia certainly has venomous snakes, spiders, jellyfish, crocodiles, and sharks, but most Australians don't spend their days avoiding deadly animals. The vast majority live in towns and cities, just like people elsewhere in the world. In fact, many Australians will tell you they're far more likely to be swooped by a protective magpie during nesting season than chased by a crocodile. Like anywhere else, understanding local wildlife and following basic safety advice goes a long way. But Australia is more than just cute animals. Australia's wildlife is also deeply connected to the country's first peoples. For tens of thousands of years, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have carefully observed Australia's animals, seasons, and landscapes. Their knowledge includes understanding animal behavior, sustainable hunting practices, seasonal changes, and the relationships between different plants and animals. Today, scientists increasingly recognize the value of combining indigenous knowledge with modern conservation and environmental research. And Australia's remarkable wildlife isn't limited to land. Off the country's northeastern coast lies the Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system in the world. It's home to sea turtles, reef sharks, colorful fish, rays, and thousands of other marine species. Another, maybe surprising fact is that coral isn't a plant or a rock. It's made up of tiny living animals working together to build enormous reef structures over many thousands of years. The reef is one of the world's great natural wonders, but it also faces challenges from warming oceans, pollution, and other environmental pressures. Protecting it has become an important goal for scientists and conservationists around the world. Before we finish, let's review and learn a few useful English words. We've already learned marsupial, species, and habitat. Another important word is the bush. Australians often use the bush to describe natural areas outside cities and towns. You may also hear the outback, which usually refers to Australia's vast, remote interior. One more useful pair of words is venomous and poisonous. People often confuse them. A venomous animal injects venom by biting or stinging you. A poisonous animal harms you if you eat it or sometimes even touch it. Many of Australia's famous snakes are venomous, not poisonous. Today, Australia's wildlife has become one of the country's greatest symbols. You'll find kangaroos on coins, sports uniforms, airline logos and souvenirs, and in breakdancing routines. Visitors travel from around the world hoping to see kangaroos in the wild, hear a kookaburra laugh, or catch a glimpse of a platypus. At the same time, Australians continue working to protect habitats and conserve the extraordinary biodiversity that makes their country unlike anywhere else on Earth. So, does Australia have the world's strangest animals? Maybe strange isn't the best word, perhaps unique is better. Australia's wildlife isn't unusual because nature made mistakes. It's unusual because Australia spent millions of years evolving separately from much of the rest of the world. The result is a country filled with remarkable animals that continue to surprise scientists, inspire visitors, and capture the imagination of people everywhere. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson of today's episode. Sometimes the world's most fascinating stories begin simply because one place grew up a little differently from everywhere else. Now I'm curious, which Australian animal would you most like to see in the wild? Let me know. Thanks for listening to the Sharing English podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a rating or review, and share the podcast with a friend who's also learning English. You can find out more about me and the podcast at our website, www.sharing-english.com. New episodes of the Sharing English podcast are available weekly wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, let me know, what topics are you interested in hearing more about? Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep sharing English.